A single battery hidden in checked luggage can ignite a chemical fire reaching 1100 degrees Fahrenheit in seconds, enough to melt through an aluminum fuselage while you are 35,000 feet in the air. While you sit in your cramped middle seat, a silent and potentially lethal blood clot could be forming in your leg. And on May 7, 2025, over 99 million people will find themselves barred from boarding their flights because of a simple piece of plastic. The system is rigged against the casual traveler. Airlines bank on your ignorance to maximize their profits and minimize their liability. You are walking through a legal and financial minefield every time you book a ticket. But you do not have to be a victim. Here are 9 rules to navigate the chaos, protect your wallet, and stay alive. Rule 1 of 9 begins with a deadline that is approaching faster than most people realize. On May 7, 2025, at exactly 12:01 a.m., your standard driver's license becomes completely useless for domestic air travel within the United States. Take Liam, a 28-year-old architect from Denver. He was planning a quick flight from Denver International, DEN, to Orlando, MCO, for a friend's wedding. Liam felt secure with his license in his wallet, unaware that the federal Real ID Act was about to ground him. The authorities are banking on the fact that millions of travelers will forget to check for the gold star in the top right corner of their ID. If you do not have that star, you are not getting past the TSA checkpoint. It is a simple upgrade, but an expensive mistake if you miss it. Liam saw the confusion at the gates during a trial run and realized his standard license was effectively a library card in the eyes of federal agents. Stop what you are doing and check your wallet right now. Here is the fix. Visit your local DMV before the spring rush. An upgrade typically costs between $30 and $60, depending on your state. If you wait until the month of the deadline, appointment slots will be gone, and you will be stranded. This is a hard federal cutoff, and no amount of politeness will get you through security without the proper credentials. Liam luckily had a valid passport as a backup, but many travelers do not carry one for domestic hops. They lose their flight, their non-refundable hotel deposits, and their sanity. The airline keeps your money, you lose. This is how the system profits from your lack of preparation. You just secured your identity, but a valid ID will not protect your belongings from the liquid trap waiting for you at Rule 2 of 9. Check your bathroom cabinet before you head to Charlotte Douglas International, CLT. You might think that nearly empty tube of premium designer toothpaste is safe because there is only a tiny bit left. You are wrong. Mia, a 35-year-old pharmacist from North Carolina, learned this the hard way at a security screening. She was heading to a medical conference and brought her expensive whitening paste. The tube was 5 ounces, but it was almost entirely empty. Perhaps half an ounce of product remained. To any rational person, it was a travel-sized item. To the TSA, it was a violation. The agent does not care how much paste is inside. They only look at the capacity printed on the manufacturer's label. Mia watched as the agent pulled her aside, causing the line behind her to groan in frustration. He pointed to the 5-ounce mark and dropped it into the trash bin. Mia tried to explain the logic, but the rules are rigid. If the bottle or tube says it holds more than 3.4 ounces, it is prohibited. Period. Here is the fix. Stop bringing half-empty large containers. Invest in high-quality 3-ounce refillable silicone tubes that are clearly marked with their capacity. The system hopes you do not know this rule, so they can keep the line moving by tossing your property. It is frustrating and illogical, but the house always wins. Mia made her flight, but she was out $15 and a lot of patience. This mistake is a nuisance, but it is nothing compared to the psychological profile you accidentally create with your clothing. Let's look at Rule 3 of 9, which focuses on the behavior detection protocols that most passengers never see coming. Julian, a 41-year-old journalist, arrived at Barcelona El Prat, BCN, for a long-haul flight back to the States. He wanted to be as comfortable as possible for the 9-hour journey, so he wore an oversized, heavy-duty hoodie and cargo pants with deep, bulging pockets. It was the ultimate comfort outfit for a traveler. But to the security officers, Julian looked like a walking red flag. He was pulled into a secondary screening room for a full-body pat-down and a manual bag search that lasted 15 minutes. The airline and the security agencies will not tell you this, but your cozy outfit is a data point for their algorithms. Baggy clothing is a major anomaly because it obscures the natural contours of the human body. Officers are trained to look for fabric that moves unnaturally or bulges in odd places. Thick layers make it impossible for them to see micro-expressions or physiological cues like tensing muscles or sweating, key indicators of high-stress behavior. By trying to be comfortable, Julian unintentionally signaled that he was hiding something. The fix is simple. Opt for smart casual layers that are fitted but breathable. Think of high-tech fleece or a light sweater instead of a massive, shapeless hoodie. Avoid pants with more than 4 pockets. This is not just about moving through the line faster. It is about signaling to the system that you have nothing to conceal. Julian eventually made his flight, but the anxiety of the interrogation ruined the first half of his trip. Reality check. A perfect outfit won't stop a random selection, but it significantly lowers your threat profile. Dress for the scan, not just for the seat. Rule 4 of 9 takes us to the boarding gate, where the airline's most aggressive, profit-generating trap is set. Have you ever wondered why the exact same suitcase that sailed through the cabin last month is suddenly rejected today? Harper, a 52-year-old real estate agent, was standing at Gate 4 in Dublin, DUB, preparing for a quick hop to London. She had used her carry-on bag for 3 years without a single issue. It fit the overhead bins perfectly on every flight. But today, a gate agent pointed at the metal sizer and demanded she test it. "It doesn't fit," the agent said, barely looking up. The airline had changed their gate check dimensions mid-season, and they were now demanding a $65 fee to check the bag into the hold. It felt like a shakedown, because it was. Airlines know that once you are at the gate, you have zero leverage. You either pay the fee or you stay on the ground. Stop. Here is the fix. Carry-on size is not a universal constant. Always check the airline's mobile app 2 hours before your flight for updated dimensions. If you find yourself at the gate and the bag is tight, use the layering trick. Pull out your heaviest coat or sweater and wear it. Move your laptop and heavy chargers to your jacket pockets. If you can shrink the footprint of the bag by even half an inch, you can often slide it into the sizer and save yourself $65. Harper repacked her heavy items into her pockets, squeezed the bag in, and kept her cash. They profit when you are lazy. You win when you are prepared. But even a perfectly sized bag can become a lethal hazard if you do not understand the chemistry of Rule 5. Let's move to Rule 5 of 9, the lithium-ion danger. A single 50-watt-hour battery can spark a thermal runaway event, creating a fire that cannot be extinguished by traditional means. Most travelers treat battery warnings as a suggestion, but the physics do not care about your convenience. Owen, a 39-year-old electrician from Detroit, found out why at Detroit Metropolitan, DTW. He wanted extra legroom for his flight, so he shoved his laptop and 3 high-capacity power banks into his checked suitcase. He figured they were safer in the cargo hold. 40 minutes after takeoff, a faint chemical odor drifted through the cabin. The pilot announced an emergency descent. On the tarmac, Owen watched as emergency crews hauled his scorched suitcase out of the hold. His fellow passengers missed their connections and family events because of 1 pound of lithium. The system banks on your ignorance to keep the boarding process moving quickly, but the FAA tracks hundreds of these incidents every year. Here is the fix. Every lithium-powered device must stay in your carry-on. This includes laptops, tablets, and even small, portable chargers. If a battery ignites in the cabin, the crew is trained to use specialized containment bags to smother the fire. In the cargo hold, there is no one to fight the flames until it is too late. If an agent forces you to gate-check your bag at the last minute, you must pull those electronics out immediately. No exceptions. Owen walked away with a ruined laptop and a massive bill for the emergency diversion. Subscribe to stay ahead of the regulations. This brings us to Rule 6 of 9, which covers the psychological game of the boarding process. Stop joining that crowded boarding line the moment the first announcement is made. Maya, a 23-year-old barista, was flying out of Nashville, BNA. She saw a crowd forming at gate C10 and felt a wave of panic. Even though the monitor clearly stated Boarding Zone 1, Maya grabbed her bag and joined a line 30 people deep, even though she was in Zone 5. The airlines profit from this boarding anxiety. They want you to feel rushed, so you are more likely to pay for priority boarding next time. They profit while you stand on your feet for 40 minutes. Stay in your seat. Seriously. Use that extra time to charge your devices or finish a meal. Monitor the boarding process on the airline's mobile app rather than hovering over the gate agent. If the overhead bins are full by the time you board in Zone 5, the agent will almost always gate-check your bag for free. This allows you to skip the wrestling match in the aisle and save your back from the strain of lifting luggage into high bins. In 2024, many major carriers actually prioritize these free gate checks to keep their turnaround times on schedule. You get the same service people paid $30 for, but you get it for free because you stayed calm. Maya eventually learned that being the first person in Zone 5 does not make the plane fly any faster. But staying calm won't help you when the airline makes a clerical error with your money. That is where Rule 7 comes in. Rule 7 of 9 is your legal undo button. Ethan, a 31-year-old financial advisor, was sitting in a crowded terminal at Hartsfield-Jackson, Atlanta, ATL, staring at his confirmation email in total shock. He had just realized he booked his flight for the wrong month. He had spent $450 on a non-refundable ticket, and the app was telling him his money was gone. Most travelers think that once you hit purchase, the contract is ironclad and the airline owns your cash. They imagine hours of fruitless arguing with a customer service bot. This is where the industry screws the uninformed. They profit from your mistakes. But there is a secret the airlines are legally required to follow, but never advertise. Per Department of Transportation regulations, if you book a flight at least 7 days before departure, you have a 24-hour window to cancel or change that flight for a full refund. No questions asked. Ethan didn't need to beg for a supervisor or explain his mistake. He simply went back into the booking management tool and clicked Cancel within the 24-hour window. The money was back in his account by the end of the week. This rule is a powerful tool for that immediate moment of, "Oh no." However, it typically only applies if you book directly through the airline's own website. Third-party booking sites often have their own confusing layers of fine print. You just saved your bank account, but that money won't matter if you ignore the physical risks of the flight itself. This leads us to the most dangerous part of your journey, Rule 8 of 9. Have you ever considered that simply sitting still could be the most hazardous thing you do all year? Clara, a 64-year-old retired nurse, was flying from Pittsburgh, PIT, to Miami for a well-deserved vacation. She was in a cramped middle seat and didn't want to disturb the passengers in the aisle, so she stayed completely frozen for the entire flight. No water, no stretching, just total immobility. By the time she reached baggage claim, her left calf felt heavy and warm. She assumed it was just a muscle cramp from the flight. 2 days later, a sharp, stabbing pain in her chest sent her to the emergency room. The airline will never warn you about deep vein thrombosis, or DVT. This happens when blood clots form in the deep veins of your legs due to a complete lack of circulation in pressurized cabins. To stay safe, you must be proactive. Try ankle pumps by flexing your feet up and down 20 times every single hour you are in the air. Drink at least 8 ounces of water for every hour of flight time to prevent your blood from thickening due to dehydration. Wear medical-grade compression socks to keep the blood flowing toward your heart. While the risk of DVT is real, especially on flights over 4 hours, these simple movements drastically lower the odds. Clara recovered, but her vacation was spent in a hospital bed instead of on the beach. You just saved your health, but the final rule will save your dignity and your hydration. Finally, Rule 9 of 9 reveals the ultimate loophole in airport security. What if I told you that you could bring a full bottle of water through the TSA checkpoint completely legally? Most travelers assume the 3.4-ounce limit is an unbreakable wall. It is not. Noah, a 47-year-old chef, arrived at Copenhagen, CPH, with an expensive insulated flask. He knew the airport would charge him $6 or $7 for a single bottle of water once he passed security. He didn't pour his bottle out. The authorities bank on your ignorance of the specific definitions of liquid. Here is the trick. Ice. Security guidelines state that frozen liquid is technically a solid. Noah filled his container with solid ice cubes before leaving for the terminal. When he reached the X-ray machine at Copenhagen, CPH, the agent opened the flask and saw only solid ice. Because there was no liquid water moving at the bottom, it passed the inspection. The agent handed it back with a nod. Noah found a water fountain on the other side, filled his flask, and had free ice-cold water for his entire trip. Stop paying the airport tax for basic hydration. This works because the TSA rules specifically target liquids and gels, not solids. Just ensure your ice hasn't melted into a puddle by the time you reach the front of the line. It is a simple physics hack that beats a greedy system. If you don't know these rules, the airport will take your money, your comfort, and your time. Knowledge is your real boarding pass to a better journey. Don't be the passenger they take advantage of. Join our squad by subscribing now.